Today, thermometers are everywhere, on the wall, in the oven, on the weather news, and under our tongues. But in the 1770s, thermometers were still scientific toys, not everyday household objects. Scientists, dressed like Ben Franklin, were just beginning to experiment with them. Most of the internal workings of the human body were a mystery. Scientists knew that a human body is warm, usually about 98 degrees Fahrenheit, but they did not know what caused the warmth or how the body would react to extreme heat. What would happen, for example, if a person were exposed to air hot enough to cook a steak? One man who decided to find out was George Fordyce, a physician who grew up and went to medical school in Scotland, but then moved to England to work. Dr. Fordyce was actually more interested in teaching and doing scientific research than in treating patients. He had an amazing memory and many interests, such as agriculture, digestion, mineral ores, muscle motion, and pendulums. He was especially interested in fever, and he hoped to discover a new way to use heat to treat illness. How much heat could a person take? When he was about 38 years old, George Fordyce decided to test his own body first. He started by warming himself gradually in small steam-heated rooms. On one wintry day, he spent 35 minutes in the steamy rooms, 5 minutes at 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 minutes at 110 degrees Fahrenheit, and 20 minutes at 120 degrees Fahrenheit. He wore only a shirt and wooden sandals tied on with cloth strips to protect his feet from the hot floor. At 110 degrees Fahrenheit, sweat streamed down his body and puddled on the floor. His shirt got so wet that he threw it off. By 120 degrees Fahrenheit, his heart was beating twice as fast as normal, about 145 beats per minute. His veins bulged, and his skin turned red all over. He felt extremely hot. At that point, Dr. Fordyce left the, quote, sauna. He plunged into a warm bath in the next room, and then went outside into the ice-cold air. He was carried home in a chair, but his blood circulation was back to normal in 2 hours. As far as experiments were concerned, Fordyce was just getting warmed up. He did several more in the steam-heated rooms, enduring up to 132 degrees Fahrenheit. He noticed that a thermometer placed under his tongue never went above 100 degrees Fahrenheit, just slightly above normal, regardless of the room's temperature. The temperature of his urine also stayed at 100 degrees Fahrenheit. To reach even more extreme temperatures, Fordyce started using a stove instead of steam. He found a small windowless room, heated with a cockle, a round black cast-iron stove, perfect for creating dry heat. There, Fordyce discovered that he could stand hot, dry air better than the damp, steamy atmosphere of his earlier trials. He went into the new hot room again and again. The temperature continued to rise. In January 1774, Dr. Fordyce invited 4 gentlemen to join him in the hot room. The plan was to raise the temperature close to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. One of the friends was another doctor, 25-year-old Charles Blagden, who was secretary of the Royal Society of London, Britain's most prestigious scientific organization. Another was Captain Constantine Phipps, an explorer with the Royal Navy. 2 young botanists rounded out the party, Joseph Banks of England and Daniel Solander of Sweden. The men apparently had no thoughts of danger, though no one at the time was sure how much heat living creatures could stand. The early results were contradictory. Many water animals had died in experiments near 100 degrees Fahrenheit, the temperature of a hot summer day. Birds and 4-legged animals had died at 149 degrees Fahrenheit. But the Russians took steam baths at 160 degrees Fahrenheit, and a few experiments had shown that people could stand air heated to 211 degrees Fahrenheit, or even 224 degrees Fahrenheit, for several minutes. Banks and Solander had recently sailed around the world with Captain James Cook. During the voyage, on which they collected 800 new kinds of plants, they had survived attacks from the Maori in New Zealand, a near shipwreck, and deadly diseases that killed many of their comrades.